You had some obviously pretty firm views on your training experience previously. How did you find our training experience in comparison?
I think we've gone a bit deeper and I think we've got better results.
What were your fears or concerns when potentially letting me loose with your team? What were you thinking pre what you know now?
The previous training that we've done here has been good, but not to the level you've done. I think you've done better than what they've done.
The training in comparison to what you've done previously, you're happy with it?
Yes, I am, but I don't think we've finished the journey. And I think that the way when I was signing this up, in my mind, and I probably never even expressed this to you, is that this is a 3-year program, I think.
What changes have you started to see with the team?
I saw different conversations in sales meetings, and I saw different conversations in one-on-ones, and I heard conversations like, your extended ears were listening to conversations between people, and you'd hear them say, that they'd be using the words and things that you knew they didn't use before. So you knew they'd been in the training, even though you weren't in the training. And there's also been some customer feedback to me in just subtle ways that, hey, look, so-and-so understood my needs. I think that's the most powerful thing, that if you're getting the feedback, because there's a saying, isn't there, that all great leaders lead people willingly where they wouldn't normally go.
Have you started to see some self-awareness grow in some of them? Because obviously we trained your managers.
Yeah.
You were dealing your branch managers and your team, which was awesome, because a lot of businesses don't understand the importance of doing both, because if you don't get the manager right, you won't get the team right.
Yeah.
Did you start to see some sort of behavioral shifts and positive shifts? Because you obviously we know in one particular deal, and we're not going to disclose what that was, but we had one deal where I think one of your very new, fresh reps that also had never really sold, was new to his territory. It was a significant corporate buyer, and they said, the experience we had with you was totally different from everyone else.
That's right. And
big testament.
That was all about the question technique, and the guy had gone from being desperate to being a little bit more confident in his own skin, and he managed to understand the customer more. And we got to remember that the market has been down, it's down 30% last month for the country. So people can be desperate, but desperation doesn't normally win unless you give it away.
If we're talking about managers, the first thing is a manager needs to earn respect through their behavior and their own leadership of self, not through a job title. Because unfortunately, a lot of managers, it's called the Peter principle. They're promoted based on tenure. Yeah. But what made them a great rep won't make them a great manager. And, we've got a different crew with your team, and they're all at different levels and different trajectories. Yeah. And I think it's brilliant that we started with the managers, because the managers are then informed about what they need to look for, what to recall, what to retrieve, what to remind, what to reinforce at every interaction, whether it's a personal appraisal, a one-on-one, a sales meeting, a catch-up. So have you been happy with the changes you're starting to see with the managers and the interactions they're having with the team?
Yes, I am. And I think it's empowered conversations that have reinforced the things that have happened.
What do you think so we talked about what's changed, and sounds like some positive stuff. What would have happened if we hadn't done this training? We hadn't made these interventions, and you had made this
investment. Training anyway.
You were going to do some training anyway.
I was trying to select a training process person or something to make this work. I knew that we hadn't done anything for a few years. I felt the lack, but I don't think anyone else could see it necessarily. But I was on a mission. I was going to sort it somehow. Yep.
Yeah. So why did you end up going with us? Why did you choose me? What appealed about us that stood out where you said, I'm going to give this guy a go?
Well, I'd listened to some of your podcasts, your LinkedIn profile things. I'd heard of you speaking at the Tama conference. I'd heard your name being mentioned a few times.
So you did your homework?
Well, I did my homework. I just listened, and I probably subconsciously was selecting a training provider for 12 months, but I wasn't even thinking of that.
So when it comes to reporting to the equivalent of a board or advisory board, how would you report that if you were to put it into a report and say, right, we've committed to some sales training, we've trained our managers, we put our team through some real sales psychology training, some foundational curriculum and material with St. John. what would that, if you were to write the report hypothetically, what would be in that report?
If I was writing a report on the training, I would be saying that we're on a journey, that we're committed to this training. We've had some good results. Some of it's in the soft stuff around the interactions, the customer feedback, the staff feedback, and the manager feedback. But then we're already seeing some people who are new into the role who are accelerating their sales journey quicker than what you would probably expect. Now, like if I was of self-importance, I'd be saying, oh, I did a great job managing them, but at the end of the day, it's not that. It's about making sure that I have put the tools in place to now enable those people to behave and achieve goals. Yeah.
Would you say you've been able to attribute a few sales to the program?
Oh, definitely. There's been some big and smaller sales that I have no doubt gave us the edge in getting the results.
Great to hear, because I think it's really important we talk about the soft stuff.
Yeah.
The behavioral change, the self-awareness, interaction, less friction, more team playing. And we talked about the importance of self-awareness, which is crucial for any manager or any team member to succeed in their professional and personal relationships and communications. And we've talked about the wider application of the professional training and what it appeals to in their personal lives. What do you think is slightly different about the way that we train? Not necessarily the mechanics, because we've talked about that, but the psychology side, the bias side. What are the team reported back? Because the whole idea of the investment is to give your team or any team not only a psychological advantage, but a competitive advantage in their conversations. What have you seen that's different? Because you've done sales training before. You've had some good sales training. You've had some overseas guys. What's been different about this sales training that you think's starting to give you that edge and the behavior that you're liking, that you're seeing?
The agricultural centric understanding of farmers and ag businesses, which it is a different world, like not everyone relates to it. And the basics of fundamental selling may be the same, but the way that you're going to get a result and a relationship with a farmer is just so different. So, and that's not that we're special. It's just that if we don't relate to that customer, we're not going to get the result we want, because we're not going to be engaged. We don't have the empathy. And if I go right back to the first sales training I had in 1980 something, the guy wrote on the wall, the one skill that we needed to have as salesmen to succeed, and that was just the word empathy. And I think that's one thing that you've learned. You've taught my team. That one word, and I talk about it so much. I think the guys don't really appreciate or think about, or they don't even understand what the word empathy means.
Yeah, the word I've been using with them is safety. So the thing is, the buyer needs to feel safe, and a farming client in any sector needs to feel safe with a salesperson, because so many sales experiences are burnt and bruised where they are very pushy, very salesy, very sleazy, and they're using the traditional techniques that make their farmers feel unsafe. And we know this because what's happening is the team are telling us the conversations are flowing more freely, and they're getting more intel, and they're getting to the deal quicker because the farmer is more comfortable and at ease and feels safe. And when people feel psychologically safe, it's because you have created that empathy, that
but
trick.
Isn't it interesting that one of my highest performers is saying that he's been able to get cut down the number of calls to make a sale, and he's measured it as in 2 to 3 times to get a sale versus 5 to 6. So that's an awful lot less diesel, a lot less rubber, a lot less
time,
hot air and time. Yeah. So I think that just if you've got one of my highest performers, which a lot of people, he'd be above what their highest performance would be, and he's able to create more time to do that, and he's telling me that he's ready for more responsibility because he's got more time, just because of a skill that he's learned. Well, isn't that a great outcome?
My last question, Andrew, would then be, if you were talking to a fellow rural business owner, someone in your network, someone colleague, what would you say to them? What would your advice be? How would you describe the training? What would you say to them?
I'd be saying that it's self-development for the team, and it's not magic fairy dust. It's just about a training program that was implemented that changed the behavior. they got better results. And to me, the investment was well worth it. That's what I'd say.